it is my pleasure to introduce our friend and newsletter sponsor, Blake Martin, who is the owner of FranNet of the Heartland. He's also known as the franchise guy, and we're going to get into that. And welcome, Blake.
Thanks. It's good to be back. Appreciate you having me, Trent.
We're glad to have you. And I was the owner of Coldwell Banker Commercial World Group for 10 years. I bought an international franchise, so I kind of know something about being a franchisee. And I want to reintroduce you to our listeners and talk about everything franchise. You cover Nebraska and Iowa, and give us a little bit of background about FranNet of the Heartland.
Sure. So I'm a franchise owner myself who helps other people learn about franchise opportunities.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme. No,
Not at all. Highly regulated industry by the Federal Trade Commission.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. But I help people who are looking to start a business and they're not quite sure what kind of business is the right fit. We're an international company all across North America. And yes, I happen to be the local franchise broker here in Nebraska and Iowa.
Give us an idea of the role that FranNet of the Heartland plays.
Sure. So as I said, I've been a franchisee and am currently. And prior to that, I was the franchisor, so working in the headquarters for franchise companies like Right at Home. And my role is to help people who are thinking, I want to start a business and, do I want to just hang my own shingle? Do I want to join a franchise? Do I want to buy an existing business? And I help them weigh the pros and the cons and, what are the variances between those ways of getting into business. And if they're interested after they get educated on franchise concepts, then we help them go through building their own blueprint for what the ideal business looks like for them. And when you've heard me say we're the match.com for local entrepreneurs in the past, what I mean by that is we know a whole lot about top-performing franchises all across the country in a ton of different categories. And our job is to match up that profile or that blueprint that we build for the local individual or the couple that are looking to start a business and see if that matches up well, if it has synergy with particular franchises that we know well and have already vetted ourselves. And then give them the tools to do the research the right way, go through the due diligence.
So you've been in this for a while. You've seen a lot of things evolve. Can you kind of describe what you've seen?
Well, nothing's changed in the last couple of years.
Not at all.
It never ceases to amaze me, the versatility and the adaptability of the franchising industry. I mean, it's across a ton of different industries. It's way more than just, do you want fries with that anymore? But watching things like the development of franchises into the on-demand or gig economy, right? So you've got recycling businesses that are focused on an app-based business model where they're putting sensors in containers and you're making your money by collecting recyclables and selling them at a profit but at a cost savings to the ultimate user of it. So there's all these types of industries that are responding. And then, of course, you've got people who are worried about inflation in this day and age. Well, looking at businesses that are in categories like damage restoration, fire and water damage restoration, where the consumer isn't paying out of their own pocket, insurance is paying for it. So that tends to be a very viable business in a market like this if the buyer of the business is worried about inflation.
Would it be fair to ask you about one specific franchise company?
You can ask me about any of them.
I see in the Omaha World Herald where they announced new hires, it seems like Scooter's Coffee has been hiring a lot of people. Is that a very active franchise?
Oh, my gosh.
It's a very active franchise, particularly in this part of the country, and they're starting to spread out in other areas. And I would tell you that, knowing the founders, right? So knowing Don and Linda, that is an organization, a franchise system that has stayed true to its culture and to what is important to the folks that are behind that business. And really, that's been a big part of the success of that organization for their local franchise owners.
Yeah,
So,
he's been on the show a couple times. Don Eccles?
Yes.
And so if somebody was
Nebraska,
interested in acquiring a franchise, would you be the person they'd reach out to?
Absolutely. And the good news is there's no cost because it works kind of like a real estate transaction. So person that's looking for the business and trying to work through that process of understanding if franchising is right for them, they don't pay me a penny.
That's cool.
So what are a couple franchise categories that people haven't thought of? Like, I mean, can you get a franchise for people can sharpen scissors at home, or what are the?
Yeah, just about everything. You're absolutely right. I mentioned one of them earlier with recycling.
Mosquitoes, getting rid of mosquitoes in your backyard.
Mosquito eradication, exactly.
Huge category.
Here's an interesting one. So I came back from our big national convention, and we get updates and get to sit down at the table with all the major franchise systems and some of the emerging ones. And one that really caught my attention is this waterless car wash that comes to you, and it's all driven by an app that the owner of the business can hold on to. You got a couple of employees. This app builds the route, so to speak. And I say waterless because I don't want to go down on a hole here, but most car washes, it's about 35 gallons of water that's used on every car that goes through.
I believe it.
This is a waterless one. It's like dry cleaning for your vehicle.
How does it work?
They have an
virtual car wash.
They have a patent on an emulsifier that actually grabs the dirt and emulsifies it without scratching the vehicle. It's a concept that came out of Europe, out of Ireland, and got really big in Europe, and they just made their entry into the United States.
I think I'm going to stick with my Tommy's Express membership. What else?
So you've got fitness machine repair. We were talking about that at the start of the show.
That's pretty cool because the Blue Moon Fitnesses of the world need repair. I mean, they got expensive equipment.
Well, and that's an example of something where, hey, when the fitness places shut down, there was a whole lot of ellipticals and treadmills that were getting dusted off, and there was problems with them. So in comes one person into your home by themselves, even at the height of COVID, and can repair that for you.
So I'm an individual and I'm interested in starting business. I contact you first. You find a category and some franchises I might be interested in. And then my second step would be contact Trenton to find a location for that.
Is that how that works? Needed. Yeah.
You're the best Mike Reedman residential guru.
Just thinking.
No product placement in this show, ladies and gentlemen. What are some
nicely played, Mike?
What are some of the misnomers in the franchise industry that you run into?
Thanks for asking. The first is that, hey, franchising is so much more than just do you want fries with that anymore. There's a ton of categories, and there's a broad array, a broad spectrum. And the second is largely because so many people, when they think of franchises, they think of a McDonald's or they think of a Subway, and they think of the large build-out, and they think of the AAA real estate that's needed, and they believe, man, I'd love to get into a franchise, but I'm not a millionaire. Well, you don't need anything even close to that. I can tell you I had a fraction of that, and I invested that fraction of $1 million, like way less than $100,000, to have a very successful business that can generate a six-figure income. And there are a lot of service-based franchises that offer that kind of investment for far less than what people think. And
like 2 men in a truck.
Great example. Yeah. So you have very little.
I couldn't afford that. I'd probably just do 1 man in a truck and one man, one truck, and a bad back. It hasn't taken off.
Love your advertising shtick there.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You are known as the franchise guy, and you have a podcast. Tell us about that, because I want people to be able to find that.
Well, yeah, it's the best podcast in the history of forever.
Next to Grow Omaha's podcast and YouTube channel,
the second best ever. Yeah. So the Heartland franchise guy is what we call it, and you can find it on any of the major platforms, or just Google Heartland franchise guy. We try to do a very balanced job of interviewing local franchise owners, of franchisors, founders of franchise systems, and influencers in the industry, like folks that specialize in funding the franchise industry. And then we also walk into just entrepreneurship in general. We had the lady from the Acton's Children's Academy, that is a school here in Omaha and Lincoln that is all about helping kids become entrepreneurs. So anything entrepreneurship and small business that's specific to our neck of the woods, we like to talk to folks about that.
Well, Blake Martin, we appreciate you coming on and sponsoring our newsletter. I know you're pretty easy to find. FranNet of the Heartland, and I'm sure is it FranNetoftheHeartland.com?
You got it.
Wow, that's a good idea that you made it. You made it that. Well, thanks, Blake Martin. We appreciate it. Will you come and join us soon?
Absolutely. Thanks for your support, and thanks for what you guys do in this community.
And thank you.
If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.